The galaxy was quiet. For decades, no major wars or conflicts had disturbed the fragile peace shared by countless alien species. Diplomacy and cautious coexistence kept tensions in check, even if trust remained thin. The Zorathian system, located near the outer rim of inhabited space, was one such place where life moved steadily under the watchful eyes of its defenders. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Until the day everything changed. On board the Zorathian defense cruiser, Ecliptica, Commander Alex Carter stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display hovering above the central console. His sharp, blue eyes scanned the data streaming across the screen. Something unusual had appeared in the farthest reaches of their territory. A ship, a human ship, was approaching fast. Humanity hadn't ventured this far into alien-controlled space in over 2 centuries. Their last known attempts at interstellar exploration had ended in failure long ago, leaving behind only legends of Earth's lost ambitions. So why now? And why here? Beside Alex, Lieutenant Lisa Monroe adjusted her headset, her fingers moving swiftly over the controls as she tried to establish communication with the mysterious vessel. Her blonde hair was tied back neatly, though a few strands escaped and framed her face. She frowned slightly as static filled the channel. "It's not responding," Lisa said, her voice calm but tinged with unease. "They're ignoring our hails." Alex nodded slowly. That alone was troubling. Ships entering foreign systems typically identified themselves immediately to avoid misunderstandings, or worse. But this one didn't seem interested in talking. Instead, it continued forward, steady and unyielding, its course bringing it closer to Zorathian space with every passing. "Second, run a scan," Alex ordered, his tone firm but measured. "I want to know what we're dealing with." Lisa complied, tapping commands into her console. After a moment, the results appeared on the main display. The ship was large, larger than most civilian vessels, and heavily armed. Its design was unmistakably human, reminiscent of ancient Earth warships from centuries past. Scorch marks and dents marred its surface, evidence of battles fought and survived. Whoever these humans were, they weren't tourists. "They've got weapons." "Online," Lisa reported, glancing up at Alex. "All systems are active, including shields. Looks like they're ready for a fight." Alex crossed his arms, his mind racing. This wasn't a routine patrol or a stray explorer. No, this ship came prepared for something. He turned to his crew, addressing them directly. "Raise shields and prepare defensive formations," he instructed. "We don't know what they want, but we're not taking any chances." As orders rippled through the ship, the tension on the bridge grew thicker. The crew worked efficiently, their training kicking in despite the uncertainty hanging over them. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered against the blackness of space, indifferent to the drama unfolding within the confines of the Ecliptica. Minutes passed, each one stretching longer than the last. Finally, the unidentified ship drew close enough for visual confirmation. On the main screen, a grainy image flickered to life. The vessel loomed large, its battered hull telling stories of violence and survival. Patches of rust and exposed wiring suggested repairs made hastily, perhaps out of desperation. Despite its condition, the ship exuded menace, its sheer size and obvious armament making it clear that it meant business. "What do you think, Commander?" asked Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, another officer on the bridge. His dark brown hair was cropped short, and his uniform was immaculate, though his expression betrayed his anxiety. "Do you think they're hostile?" Alex hesitated before answering. "We won't know until they make a move. But I don't like this. Not one bit. Then, the communications panel lit up again. Lisa leaned forward, adjusting the frequency. Static crackled briefly before giving way to a voice, deep, gravelly, and laced with authority. "This is Captain Brian Hayes of the United Earth Fleet," the voice announced. "Stand down your forces immediately." A collective murmur swept through the bridge. The name sent a chill down Alex's spine. The United Earth Fleet hadn't existed in over 200 years. If this really was who they claimed to be, then humanity had somehow clawed its way back from the brink of extinction, and they weren't happy about it. Alex stepped closer to the comm panel, his posture rigid. "Captain Hayes, this is Commander. Alex Carter of the Zorathian Defense Fleet. You've entered sovereign territory without permission. State your purpose here." There was a pause, during which the tension aboard the Ecliptica reached almost unbearable levels. Then Hayes spoke again, his tone colder than before. "We're reclaiming what belongs to us. Your kind stole our resources, abandoned our colonies, and left humanity to rot. Now we're back, and you'll pay for every crime." Before Alex could respond, the transmission cut off abruptly, plunging the bridge into stunned silence. The implications of Hayes's words sank in slowly. Whatever peace had existed between humans and aliens was gone, if it had ever truly existed at all. Alex turned to Lisa, his expression grim. "Send a message to Central Command. Tell them we may have a war on our hands." As the crew scrambled to carry out his orders, Alex returned to the viewport. Beyond the glass, the human warship hung ominously in the void, a ghost from Earth's forgotten past. Whatever brought them here, it wasn't diplomacy. And if they thought they could simply march into Zorathian space and demand submission, they were sorely mistaken. For now, all Alex could do was wait and prepare, because when the humans acted, it wouldn't be subtle. It would be swift, brutal, and devastating. The silence on the bridge of the Ecliptica was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the ship's systems and the occasional beep of a console. Commander Alex Carter stood at the center of it all, his mind racing as he tried to piece together what had just happened. The human warship, now identified as the Solstice, had made its intentions painfully clear. They weren't here to talk. They were here to fight. Lieutenant Lisa Monroe glanced over at Alex, her hands still hovering over her controls. "What do we do now, Commander?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. Alex didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned back to the main screen, where the image of the Solstice loomed large. Its battered hull might have suggested weakness, but its active weapons systems and aggressive stance told a different story. Whoever these humans were, they had come prepared for battle, and they weren't going to back down easily. "We wait," Alex said finally, his tone firm. "For now, we hold our position and monitor their movements. If they make a move, we'll respond. But until then, we don't escalate." His words did little to ease the tension among the crew. Everyone knew that waiting wasn't the same as being safe. The presence of the Solstice was a threat, plain and simple, and no one doubted that it could turn violent at any moment. As the hours dragged on, the humans aboard the Solstice remained eerily silent. No further communications came through, and the ship stayed in place, seemingly content to hover just outside Zorathian territory. It was as if they were daring the Zorathians to make the first move, or perhaps testing their resolve. On board the Ecliptica, Lieutenant Daniel Brooks kept a close eye on the sensors, watching for any sign of activity from the Solstice. His fingers danced across the console, adjusting settings and running scans. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, frowning. "Commander," he said, catching Alex's attention. "Their weapons are still powered up and their shields are holding steady. But there's something else. Their engines, they're fluctuating. It's like they're having trouble maintaining stability." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Could it be damage from old battles? Or maybe fuel shortages?" Daniel shrugged. "It's possible, but I'm also picking up some strange energy signatures coming from inside the ship. I can't pinpoint what they are, but they're definitely not normal," Lisa chimed in, her curiosity piqued. "Do you think they're carrying experimental tech? Something new?" "It's hard to say," Daniel admitted. "But whatever it is, it's giving off readings I've never seen before." Alex crossed his arms, deep in thought. Humans hadn't been known for advanced technology in centuries, not since their interstellar efforts collapsed under the weight of resource shortages and internal strife. If the Solstice really was equipped with cutting-edge weaponry or energy systems, it begged the question, how had they gotten it? And who had helped them? Before anyone could speculate further, alarms blared suddenly, jolting the crew into action. On the main screen, the Solstice began moving. Not away, but closer, pushing deeper into Zorathian space. "They're advancing!" Lisa shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. "Weapons are charging!" "Raise shields!" Alex barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "All hands! Prepare for combat!" The bridge erupted into controlled pandemonium as the crew sprang into action. Orders were shouted, panels lit up, and the low thrum of the Ecliptica's engines grew, louder as the ship braced for impact. Outside the viewport, the stars blurred slightly as the cruiser adjusted its position to face the incoming threat. But instead of firing, the Solstice stopped abruptly, hanging ominously in the void. For a long, tense moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, a series of small drones launched from its hull, spreading out in a wide arc. "What are those?" Daniel asked, squinting at the sensor readings. "They're too small to be fighters." "Probes," Alex muttered, his jaw tightening. "They're gathering intel." Sure enough, the drones began scanning the Ecliptica and its surrounding fleet, sending pulses of energy that lit up the ship's sensors. The probes moved quickly, darting in and out of range before retreating back toward the Solstice. "They're testing us," Lisa said, her voice tinged with frustration. "Seeing how we react." "And they're learning fast," Alex added, grimly. He turned to Daniel. "Can we disable them?" Daniel hesitated, checking his readouts. "We could try targeting them with precision shots, but they're moving too erratically. Any attempt might miss and give away our own capabilities." Alex nodded. "Then let them finish. We'll deal with them later." The crew watched helplessly as the drones completed their scans and returned to the Solstice. Once they were safely aboard, the massive warship began pulling back, retreating to its original position just outside Zorathian territory. "They're done. For now," Lisa said, exhaling sharply. "But this isn't over." "No, it's not," Alex agreed, his expression dark. "This was just a taste of what they're capable of. Next time, they won't stop with probes." The bridge fell silent again, the weight of the situation pressing down on everyone. The humans had proven they were willing to push boundaries and test defenses. But why? What did they hope to achieve by entering Zorathian space so brazenly? As the hours passed, Alex called a meeting with his senior officers to discuss their next steps. In addition to Lisa and Daniel, Lieutenant Ethan Grant joined them, his muscular frame filling the doorway as he entered the briefing room. A seasoned soldier with years of experience in both ground and space combat, Ethan brought a pragmatic perspective to the table. "All right," Alex began, gesturing for everyone to sit. "We need to figure out what these humans want, and how far they're willing to go to get it. Any ideas?" Lisa spoke first. "Based on their behavior so far, they're not here for diplomacy. They're scouting, probing weaknesses. Whatever they plan to do, they'll strike when they think." "We're vulnerable," Ethan nodded. "Agreed. And judging by their tech, they've got some serious firepower. If they decide to attack, we'll need every advantage we can get," Daniel chimed in, his brow furrowed. "There's still the question of how they got that tech. Humans haven't had access to interstellar resources for centuries. Someone must have given it to them, or traded with them." Alex leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "That's the key. If we can figure out who's backing them, we might be able to cut off their support, but that means digging deeper and taking risks." The group spent the next hour brainstorming strategies, weighing the pros and cons of each option. By the Time they adjourned, a tentative plan had emerged. Send a reconnaissance team to shadow the Solstice and gather more information about its crew, capabilities, and potential allies. It was a dangerous mission, but it might provide the answers they desperately needed. Later that evening, Alex found himself alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The vastness of space always reminded him of how small and fragile life truly was, and how easily it could be destroyed. As he gazed at the distant glow of the solstice, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The humans had returned after centuries of silence, and they weren't playing games. They had come armed and ready, driven by anger and ambition. Whether they sought revenge, resources, or something else entirely, one thing was certain. They wouldn't leave without a fight, and neither would the Zorathians. As Alex turned to leave, he resolved to do whatever it took to protect his people, even if it meant facing humanity's wrath head-on. The reconnaissance mission was set to launch at dawn. Commander Alex Carter stood in the hangar bay of the Ecliptica, watching as Lieutenant Lisa Monroe and Corporal Ethan Grant prepared the small, sleek vessel designated for the task. The ship, called the Vanguard, was designed for stealth and speed, perfect for shadowing the human warship without being detected. Alex approached the pair, his boots echoing softly against the metal floor. "Remember," he said, his voice low but firm, "this isn't a fight. You're there to observe, gather intel, and get out. If you're spotted, retreat immediately." Lisa nodded, her expression calm but focused. She adjusted the straps on her flight suit, ensuring everything was secure. "Understood, Commander. We'll stay out of sight." Ethan cracked a small smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't worry, sir. We've done this before. We'll be fine." Alex gave them a curt nod, then stepped back as they climbed aboard the Vanguard. Moments later, the engines roared to life, and the ship lifted off smoothly, disappearing into the void beyond the hangar doors. Out in space, the Vanguard moved silently, its cloaking systems masking its presence from sensors. Lisa piloted the craft with precision, weaving through asteroid fields and debris to avoid detection. Ethan manned the scanning equipment, his sharp eyes glued to the monitors as they closed in on the solstice. "They're still holding position," Ethan murmured, studying the readings. "No major changes in their energy output or trajectory." "Good," Lisa replied, keeping her focus on the controls. "Let's see if we can get closer." The Vanguard edged nearer, slipping into the shadow of a nearby asteroid. From this vantage point, they had a clear view of the human warship. Its battered hull gleamed faintly under the distant light of a dying star, and the faint hum of its engines could be felt even through the vacuum of space. As they observed, Ethan noticed something unusual. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a cluster of blinking lights near the rear of the solstice. "Those aren't standard exhaust ports. Whatever they're running on, it's not conventional fuel." Lisa frowned. Could it be some kind of alien tech? Something they picked up during their travels? "It's possible," Ethan admitted. "But I'm more concerned about what else they might have. If they've got advanced weapons or shields, we're in trouble." Before Lisa could respond, the sensors picked up movement. A smaller shuttle detached from the solstice and began heading toward a nearby moon. Ethan leaned forward, intrigued. "Where are they going?" "We follow," Lisa decided, already adjusting the Vanguard's course. Quietly, the two trailed the shuttle, careful to maintain a safe distance. When the shuttle landed on the moon's surface, Lisa brought the Vanguard down in a hidden crater several kilometers away. They suited up quickly and exited the ship, moving cautiously across the barren landscape. Through the dim glow of their helmet lights, they spotted the human crew disembarking from the shuttle. There were 6 of them, all clad in rugged armor that looked patched together from scavenged parts. One figure stood out, a tall man with graying hair and a commanding presence. Captain Brian Hayes. Hayes gestured to his team, barking orders as they unloaded crates from the shuttle. Inside the crates were strange devices, pulsating with an eerie blue light. Ethan raised his visor slightly to get a better look. "What? Is that stuff?" he whispered. "I don't know," Lisa replied, her voice barely audible over the comms. "But it doesn't look like anything Earth would have built." As they watched, a second group arrived. Not humans, but aliens. Their insectoid forms and jagged carapaces marked them as krill, one of the most aggressive species in the galaxy. Known for their expansionist tendencies, the krill had clashed with countless civilizations over the years, always seeking new territory and resources. The humans and krill exchanged words, though the language barrier made it impossible for Lisa and Ethan to understand. However, the tone of the conversation was clear, tense and distrustful. The humans seemed wary of their supposed allies, while the krill radiated impatience. "This isn't just a partnership," Ethan muttered. "It's a deal, and neither side likes it." Lisa nodded. "If we can exploit that, maybe we can drive a wedge between them." Suddenly, Hayes raised his voice, pointing accusingly at the krill leader. The insectoid alien responded with a harsh hiss, its mandibles clicking angrily. Tensions escalated rapidly, and for a moment it looked like violence might break out. Then, unexpectedly, Hayes backed down. He signaled to his team, and they began packing up the crates. The krill watched them leave, their glowing eyes narrowing suspiciously. "Well, that was interesting," Ethan said, as the shuttle lifted off and disappeared into the sky. "Looks like humanity's allies aren't exactly loyal." "No, kidding," Lisa agreed. "But now we know who's backing them and why they've got such advanced tech." Back aboard the Vanguard, Lisa and Ethan reviewed the footage they'd captured, piecing together what they'd witnessed. It was clear that the humans had struck a bargain with the krill, trading resources or information for technology and support. But the alliance was fragile, held together by mutual need rather than trust. When they returned to the Ecliptica, Alex was waiting for them in the briefing room. His expression was grim as he listened to their report, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the table. "So the humans aren't acting alone," he said finally. "They've got the krill backing them, but only for now." "Exactly," Lisa confirmed. "And based on what we saw, the krill aren't happy about it. They're using the humans to further their own goals, but once they've gotten what they want, they'll turn on them." Ethan leaned forward, his arms resting on his knees. "Which means we've got a chance to break their alliance. If we can make the humans doubt the krill, or vice versa, we might be able to stop this before it escalates into full-scale war." Alex considered this, his brow furrowed in thought. "It's risky, but it's our best shot." Over the next few hours, the senior officers hashed out a plan. Using the intel gathered by Lisa and Ethan, they would stage a covert operation to sabotage the humans' relationship with the krill. By planting false information or creating distractions, they hoped to sow discord between the two factions. Meanwhile, tensions continued to rise across the Zorathian system. Reports came in of additional skirmishes along the border, where human drones tested defenses and probed for weaknesses. The Ecliptica remained on high alert, its crew working tirelessly to prepare for whatever might come next. Alex found himself pacing the bridge late at night, unable to shake the feeling that time was running out. The humans weren't going to wait forever. They were planning something big, and when they acted, it would be swift and devastating. As he stared out at the stars, Alex couldn't help but wonder how many lives would be lost in the coming conflict. The humans had returned, with anger in their hearts and vengeance on their minds. Whether driven by desperation or pride, they showed no signs of backing down, but neither would the Zorathians. For now, all Alex could do was hope that their plan worked, and that they could prevent the galaxy from descending into chaos. The plan was risky, but it was the only option they had. Commander Alex Carter gathered his team in the briefing room one last time before launching the operation. The room was dimly lit, the air thick with tension as everyone prepared for what lay ahead. On the table between them was a holographic map of the area where the humans and Krill had met earlier. It showed the moon's surface, the shuttle landing site, and the nearby asteroid field. "All right," Alex began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We know the humans and the Krill are working together, but barely. If we can create enough doubt between them, we might be able to break their alliance. Here's how we're going to do it." He pointed to the map, highlighting a narrow canyon near the rendezvous point. "Lisa and Ethan will take the Vanguard back to the moon and set up decoys here. These will mimic human and Krill signals, making it look like both sides are spying on each other. Meanwhile, Daniel and I will monitor from the Ecliptica and provide backup if things go south." Lieutenant Lisa Monroe nodded, her blonde hair catching the faint glow of the hologram. "What about direct interference? Should we try to sabotage their equipment?" Alex shook his head. "Not yet. We don't want to tip our hand too early. Right now, subtlety is key. If we can make them suspicious of each other, they'll start turning on one another without us having to fire a shot." Corporal Ethan Grant cracked his knuckles, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Sounds like fun. Let's hope these bugs don't catch on too quickly." With the plan finalized, the team dispersed to prepare. Hours later, under the cover of darkness, the Vanguard slipped out of the Ecliptica's hangar bay and disappeared into the void. Its cloaking systems rendered it invisible to even the most advanced sensors, allowing Lisa and Ethan to approach the moon undetected. As they neared the canyon, Lisa guided the Vanguard into a hidden alcove, shielding it from view. She powered down the engines and turned to Ethan. "Ready?" "Always," he replied, already pulling up the controls for the decoy devices. Together they deployed several small drones equipped with signal emitters. Each drone was programmed to mimic either human or Krill communications, creating the illusion of covert activity. Once the decoys were in place, Lisa and Ethan retreated to a safe distance, watching through the ship's cameras as their trap unfolded. At first, nothing happened. The moon remained eerily quiet, its rocky surface bathed in the faint light of a distant star. But then movement caught their attention. A Krill patrol emerged from the shadows, their jagged forms glinting menacingly in the dim light. They moved cautiously, their glowing eyes scanning the terrain. One of them paused, antennae twitching as it detected the faint signals emanating from the decoy drones. "They've found something," Ethan whispered, leaning closer to the monitor. "Let's see what they do." The Krill leader raised a clawed limb, signaling to his squad. They fanned out, weapons drawn, and began closing in on the source of the signals. Moments later, a second group appeared, humans this time, led by Captain Brian Hayes. They moved with equal caution, their rifles raised as they followed the same trail. For a moment, neither side noticed the other. Then, chaos erupted. Hayes spotted the Krill first, his face twisting in anger. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice carrying over the comms intercept. The Krill leader hissed, mandibles clicking furiously. "You lie! You spy on us!" "We're not spying," Hayes shot back. "We're here because of your treachery. Did you think we wouldn't notice the false data you've been feeding us?" The accusation hung in the air, heavy with implications. Lisa glanced at Ethan, her eyes wide. Did they really feed them bad info, or is that just part of the ruse? Ethan shrugged. "Doesn't matter. What matters is that they believe it." On the screen, the confrontation escalated. Both groups drew their weapons, shouting accusations and threats. For a moment, it looked like violence would break out. But then, unexpectedly, Hayes lowered his rifle. "This isn't worth it," he growled. "We'll settle this later." Without another word, he signaled to his team, and they retreated toward their shuttle. The krill watched them leave, their glowing eyes narrowing suspiciously. Once the humans were gone, the insectoids lingered for a while, scanning the area before finally withdrawing as well. "Well, that went better than expected," Lisa said, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Don't celebrate yet," Ethan cautioned. "We've planted the seed, but we won't know if it takes root until later." Back aboard the Ecliptica, Alex and Lieutenant Daniel Brooks monitored the situation closely. When reports came in of the skirmish on the moon, Alex allowed himself a small smile. "Good work," he said into the comm channel. "Now let's see how long it takes for paranoia to set in." Over the next few days, tensions between the humans and the krill grew increasingly strained. Intercepted communications revealed heated arguments and growing mistrust. The humans accused the krill of withholding resources and sabotaging their efforts, while the krill claimed the humans were hoarding technology promised in their deal. "It's working," Daniel observed, scrolling through the transcripts. "They're starting to turn on each other." "But it's not enough," Alex replied, his tone serious. "We need to push harder. If we can get them to abandon the alliance completely, we might have a chance to negotiate, or at least buy ourselves some time." To that end, Alex authorized a series of carefully orchestrated distractions. Small Zorathian patrols began appearing near human and krill outposts, forcing both factions to divert resources to defend themselves. These encounters were brief and non-lethal, designed to keep the humans and krill off balance without provoking outright war. Meanwhile, Lisa and Ethan continued their covert operations, deploying more decoys and planting false intel to deepen the rift. Their efforts paid off when intelligence reports confirmed that the krill had begun recalling their forces from the outer rim, leaving the humans isolated. "They're pulling back," Ethan reported during a debriefing session. "Looks like the alliance is crumbling." Alex nodded, though his expression remained cautious. "It's a start, but we can't assume they're out of the picture yet. The krill are unpredictable and dangerous." Despite the progress, the threat of conflict loomed large. The humans, now abandoned by their former allies, grew more aggressive. Attacks on Zorathian outposts increased, and Captain Hayes made no secret of his intentions. "You took everything from us," he declared in a broadcast message intercepted by the Ecliptica. "Now we'll take it back, by force, if necessary." The words sent a chill through the Zorathian fleet. Alex knew they couldn't afford to underestimate the humans. Even without the krill, they were still a formidable enemy, armed with advanced technology and driven by desperation. As the days passed, Alex spent more time on the bridge, coordinating defensive strategies and preparing for the inevitable showdown. He often found himself staring out at the stars, wondering how far humanity's thirst for vengeance would take them, and whether peace could ever be possible again. One evening, as the crew worked tirelessly around him, Alex turned to Lisa. "Do you think they'll listen if we try to talk?" Lisa hesitated before answering. "I don't know, Commander. They've been hurt, betrayed, maybe too much to forgive. But we have to try." Alex nodded slowly. "Then we'll try, but we'll also be ready for anything." And so, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what the humans would do next. Whatever it was, Alex knew one thing for certain. The fate of countless lives rested on the decisions made in the coming days. The final days before the inevitable clash were tense. Commander Alex Carter spent most of his time on the bridge of the Ecliptica, poring over reports and coordinating with his crew. The humans aboard the Solstice had grown bolder, launching small raids against Zorathian outposts in an effort to weaken their defenses. Each attack was swift and precise, leaving little room for retaliation. Lieutenant Lisa Monroe worked tirelessly, alongside Alex, monitoring the movements of the solstice. Her sharp eyes rarely left the sensor displays, tracking every shift in the human warship's position. "They're testing us," she said one evening, her voice low but firm. "Pushing our limits." Alex nodded grimly. "And they're learning fast. We can't afford to let them gain the upper hand." Despite the growing threat, Alex remained determined to find a way to avoid all-out war. He knew that humanity's anger ran deep, fueled by centuries of neglect and betrayal. But he also believed that there was still a chance, however slim, to reach them. "We need to send a message," Alex decided after hours of deliberation. "Not a threat, but an offer. Let them know we're willing to talk." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Do you think they'll listen?" "It's worth a try," Alex replied. "If nothing else, it might buy us some time." With that, Alex recorded a brief transmission addressing Captain Brian Hayes directly. His tone was calm but resolute as he spoke. "Captain Hayes, this is Commander Alex Carter of the Zorathian Defense Fleet. We understand your grievances and we are willing to discuss them. Violence will only lead to more suffering, for both sides. Please consider opening a dialogue." The message was sent, and then all they could do was wait. Hours passed without a response. On board the Ecliptica, the crew braced themselves for the worst. Tensions reached a breaking point when sensors detected the solstice moving again, this time heading straight toward a major Zorathian colony. "They're targeting civilians," Lieutenant Daniel Brooks exclaimed, his face pale with alarm. "We have to stop them." Alex clenched his jaw, his mind racing. Ordering the fleet to intercept would risk escalating the situation further, but doing nothing wasn't an option either. "Prepare a defensive perimeter around the colony," he instructed, "and keep hailing them. Don't give up." As the Ecliptica and its accompanying ships moved into position, the solstice slowed unexpectedly. Then, to everyone's surprise, a reply came through. "This is Captain Hayes," the gruff voice announced. "We're not here to harm your people, not yet. But if you continue to block our path, we won't hesitate." Alex seized the opportunity. "Captain Hayes, we've already extended an olive branch. If you truly seek justice, meet us halfway. Let's resolve this peacefully." There was a long pause, a silence so heavy it felt like the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Finally, Hayes responded. "Fine, one meeting, but if this is a trick, you'll regret it." Relief washed. Over the bridge, though no one dared celebrate just yet, a location was agreed upon, a neutral asteroid field near the edge of Zorathian territory. Both sides would arrive unarmed and unescorted, with only a handful of representatives allowed to attend. The day of the meeting arrived, and Alex prepared to leave the safety of the Ecliptica. Accompanying him were Lisa and Corporal Ethan Grant, chosen for their quick thinking and steady nerves. As they boarded a small shuttle, Alex gave his crew one last order. "Stay alert. If anything goes wrong, get yourselves and the colony out of here." The flight to the asteroid field was quiet, each member of the team lost in thought. When they landed, they found the human delegation waiting for them. Captain Hayes stood at the center, flanked by two others, one male, one female. Their expressions were hard, their body language guarded. Alex stepped forward, raising a hand in a gesture of peace. "Thank you for coming, Captain Hayes." Hayes didn't return the gesture. Instead, he crossed his arms and glared. "Talk fast, Carter. I don't have patience for games." Alex took a deep breath. "I understand your anger. Humanity has been wronged, and I won't deny that. But attacking innocent colonies won't fix anything. It will only create more pain," Hayes scoffed. "You think we care about your colonies? You abandoned us. Left us to die while you carved up the stars for yourselves." "That's not true," Lisa interjected, stepping forward. "Earth's collapse wasn't anyone's fault. It was a tragedy, A shared failure. Blaming the Zorathians won't bring back what you've lost. For a moment, Hayes looked uncertain. Then his gaze hardened again. Maybe, but it doesn't change the fact that we need resources to survive. And if you won't give them willingly, we'll take them. Ethan spoke up, his tone measured but firm. And then what? Even if you win, you'll still be alone. Out here, without allies, without hope. Is that really what you want? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Hayes exchanged a glance with his companions, his confidence wavering slightly. Sensing an opening, Alex pressed on. There's another way, he said. Work with us. Share knowledge, trade resources. Together we can build something better. Not just for humanity, but for everyone. Hayes hesitated, clearly torn. After a long pause, he finally sighed. Fine, we'll consider it. But if this is another lie... It's not, Alex assured him. We're offering a fresh start. Take it or leave it. In the days that followed, tentative negotiations began. The humans agreed to stand down their attacks, and the Zorathians offered aid to help repair the solstice and resupply its crew. Though trust was slow to rebuild, small steps were taken toward cooperation. Back aboard the Ecliptica, Alex reflected on what had been achieved. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was a beginning. As he gazed out at the stars, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's return didn't have to mean war. Perhaps it could mean renewal. But even as peace seemed within reach, Alex knew the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. Somewhere out there, dangers still lurked, threats that could shatter the fragile balance once more. For now, though, the Zorathians and humans had taken the first step toward coexistence, and sometimes that was enough. The fragile truce between the Zorathians and the humans aboard the Solstice held for a time. Negotiations continued, with both sides exchanging cautious words and small gestures of goodwill. Supplies were delivered to the Solstice, and, in return, Captain Brian Hayes agreed to share some of the knowledge his crew had gathered during their long journey through space. The information was incomplete, fragmented by years of hardship and loss, but it hinted at discoveries that could benefit not just humanity, but all species in the galaxy. Commander Alex Carter worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance. He knew that one wrong move could shatter the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. Every decision he made was weighed carefully, every word chosen with precision. On board the Ecliptica, the mood shifted gradually from tension to cautious optimism. The crew began to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way forward together. Lieutenant Lisa Monroe played a key role in building trust between the two groups. Her calm demeanor and sharp mind made her an ideal liaison, and she spent hours speaking with members of the human crew, learning about their struggles and sharing stories of Zorathian life. Slowly, barriers began to fall, replaced by understanding, or at least tolerance. But not everyone was convinced. Corporal Ethan Grant remained skeptical, his instincts telling him that the humans couldn't be trusted completely. They're desperate, he told Alex during one late-night conversation on the bridge. People who are desperate don't always make rational decisions. Alex nodded, acknowledging the truth in Ethan's words. I know, but desperation can also lead to change if we handle it right. We have to give them a reason to trust us. Ethan frowned but didn't argue further. Instead, he focused on ensuring the Ecliptica's defenses remained ready just in case. As days turned into weeks, the humans began to settle into a routine. Repairs to the Solstice progressed steadily thanks to the resources provided by the Zorathians. In exchange, Hayes kept his promise to share what his crew had learned. One discovery stood out: a map detailing previously unknown regions of space, rich with unexplored planets and potential resources. This changes everything, Lieutenant Daniel Brooks said excitedly as he studied the data. If these coordinates are accurate, we could open up new trade routes, establish colonies, even prevent future conflicts over resources. Alex shared his enthusiasm, but tempered it with caution. We need to verify this information first, and we should involve other species in the exploration. This isn't just for us, it's for everyone. Hayes initially resisted the idea of sharing the map, arguing that it belonged to humanity. But Alex countered with logic and diplomacy. You came here seeking help because you couldn't do it alone. Why go back to isolation now? Work with us, and we'll ensure humanity has a place at the table. Reluctantly, Hayes agreed. It was a small victory, but an important one, a sign that cooperation might truly be possible. Despite these advances, challenges remained. Rumors began to circulate among the human crew about the krill. Some believed the insectoid species would return, seeking revenge for the broken alliance. Others feared betrayal from within, convinced that the Zorathians were playing a long game to weaken humanity further. Captain Hayes did his best to quell the unrest, addressing his crew in a series of meetings aboard the Solstice. "We've come too far to let fear tear us apart," he said during one such gathering. "Yes, the road ahead is uncertain, but if we stick together and work with the Zorathians, we stand a better chance than we ever did alone." His words helped, but doubts lingered. A few members of the human crew grew increasingly vocal in their opposition to the truce, questioning Hayes's leadership and accusing him of selling out humanity's interests. Tensions simmered just below the surface, threatening to boil over at any moment. Lisa noticed the growing divide during her visits to the Solstice. She reported her concerns to Alex, who listened intently. "We need to address this before it becomes a problem," he said. "If the humans turn on each other, it could undo everything we've accomplished." To prevent that, Alex proposed a joint mission, a symbolic gesture meant to strengthen ties between the two groups. Together, teams from the Ecliptica and the Solstice would explore one of the newly discovered planets, testing its habitability and resource potential. The goal was simple: show that collaboration could yield results neither side could achieve alone. The mission launched under the watchful eyes of both crews. Alex led the Zorathian contingent, while Hayes commanded the human team. They traveled aboard a specially equipped shuttle, designed to handle the unknown conditions of the planet's surface. As they descended through the atmosphere, the landscape below came into view, a mix of lush greenery and towering mountains, untouched by civilization. "It's beautiful," Lisa murmured, gazing out the viewport. "Like something out of a dream." Hayes nodded, though his expression remained guarded. "Let's hope it's more than just scenery." On the ground, the teams worked together, collecting samples and conducting scans. For the first time, the humans and Zorathians interacted not as adversaries, but as partners. Small moments of camaraderie emerged, a shared laugh over a clumsy misstep, a nod of appreciation for a job well done. These tiny connections mattered, weaving threads of trust where none had existed before. But the harmony was short-lived. Midway through the mission, alarms blared as sensors detected movement nearby. Something, or someone, was approaching. "Stay alert," Alex ordered, drawing his weapon. Hayes followed suit, signaling for his team to form a defensive perimeter. From the shadows emerged a group of creatures unlike anything they had seen before. Tall and slender, with translucent skin that shimmered like water, they moved with an eerie grace. Their large, luminous eyes scanned the intruders, curiosity evident in their gaze. "Are they hostile?" Ethan asked, his voice low. "No," Alex replied after a moment. "Not yet. Let's try communication." Using universal translation software, Alex attempted to establish contact. The creatures responded cautiously, their melodic voices filling the air. Through trial and error, basic understanding was achieved. The beings identified themselves as the Velani, native inhabitants of the planet. They were wary of outsiders but willing to listen. Hayes stepped forward, surprising everyone. "We mean no harm," he said, his tone unusually gentle. "We only wish to learn." The Velani studied him for a long moment, then gestured for the group to follow. They led the humans and Zorathians to a hidden settlement nestled within the mountains, revealing wonders beyond imagination. Advanced technology powered by sustainable energy sources, medical advancements capable of curing diseases, thought incurable. All gifts offered freely, provided mutual respect was maintained. Returning. To the ships, both groups were changed. The experience had shown them what was possible when cooperation replaced conflict. For the humans, it was a glimpse of hope, a reminder that survival didn't have to come at the cost of others. For the Zorathians, it reinforced their belief in unity and shared progress. Back aboard the Ecliptica, Alex addressed his crew. "Today proved something important. When we work together, we achieve more than we ever could alone. Let's carry that lesson forward, not just with the humans, but with all species." Hayes echoed the sentiment aboard the Solstice. "This is only the beginning," he told his crew. "We've been given a second chance. Let's make it count." In the weeks that followed, plans were made to expand exploration efforts, inviting representatives from other civilizations to join. The map provided by the humans became a blueprint for a new era of cooperation, one built on trust rather than fear. For Alex Carter, the journey was far from over. Challenges would arise, old enemies would resurface, and new dangers would emerge. But standing on the bridge of the Ecliptica, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars, he allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Peace wasn't perfect, but it was worth fighting for. And as long as there were those willing to take the first step, there was always hope.